Okay, so rewind 2 years, Everton sack Ronald Koeman, and then there's the managerial instability with David Unsworth coming in as interim and all the instability that came with that. And then at the end of that situation, Marco Silva was announced as a permanent manager in May 2018. Fast forward to December 2019, so today, December the 5th, and Everton have parted ways with Marco Silva. He won 24 out of the 60 games in charge, which is a little more than just a 30% win rate, but he also lost the same amount of games. He lost 24 games out of 60. And losing the last two, the run of form they've been on has been shocking. I'm not going to go into all the issues Everton have because we've discussed this before on the channel a couple of years ago when they last had their last managerial instability, and it's 18 months later. We're back to square one again. The managerial turnaround at Everton is becoming quite alarming. I think that's had an impact on where the team are. They're currently 18th. They are in a relegation scrap, and I don't know how they get out of this. I don't know if David Moyes coming in as interim or replacement is actually a step forward. I think that could be a step backward. Just ask Sunderland and West Ham fans and Man United fans about how much of a step backwards appointing David Moyes as manager of their clubs was. But what needs to happen is whoever comes in needs to spend money in the transfer window, needs to shore up that defence, and needs to have some creative spark in midfield, because that's what they're lacking. They're lacking a driving, creative, box-to-box midfielder, or maybe a box-to-box midfielder and a creative midfielder, and one or two really solid centre-backs, because what I'm seeing right now is a shambles. But I think the constant chopping and changing of manager hasn't helped the situation, but you have to look at it this way. And I'm going to end on this point. They have not won a trophy since 1995, and that sums up where Everton have been in the last 2.5 decades. Is they've not been as great as they should have been. They could have really, kept challenging for trophies in the 90s and the 2000s, and they really haven't. And that's the problem. They've had one FA Cup final since then, under David Moyes, against Chelsea. And you look at that team that played that FA Cup final against Chelsea, and look at the team now. That team that played that FA Cup final against Chelsea a decade or so ago would trounce this team now. The team has declined, and that is on transfer policy. And you have to look at the board and the chairman and the owner and go, are they really getting the transfer policy right? You also have to look at the scouting and the youth system, because Liverpool, their city rivals, are seemingly producing great players out their youth system. Everton, not so much. And when Everton do get a good player out their youth system, they seem to sell him to another club. So you have to look at their youth policy and their transfer policy as part of the problem. So whoever comes in has to wrestle, control of that transfer policy and youth policy, and really look at what's going on with the scouting and with the youth coach setup, and try and address that and restructure that. They're going to be in a relegation battle. Whoever comes in has got to be prepared to roll their sleeves up and get stuck into a relegation fight. And this is something that I don't think Everton fans were expecting beginning of this season. But Marco Silva, it's been a complete mismatch between the manager and the club. It hasn't worked from the beginning for me. I think they've got worse and worse, and maybe they should have got rid of him in the summer. But hindsight's a great thing. But whoever comes in has definitely got to do something in the transfer market in the short to medium term, just to stabilise the situation, because defensively not good enough. And in goal, I'm not sold on Jordan Pickford. I never have been. I know he's England's number one, but he doesn't. When I've seen him play, he does not command his box as well as other goalkeepers in the Premier League. I've seen him flap more often than he should. And if you are going to punch, get a good fist on it. Don't try and flap it and palm it. He does that a lot. He's a very good shot stopper, but at the same time, he does have a lot of errors in his game. Could that be a confidence thing? I know he's a very good sweeper keeper when he's on his game, but when he's off his game trying to do it, some of the mistakes he makes are comical at best, and that's a problem. If you do not have a confident goalkeeper coming for the ball, your defence isn't going to be confident from set plays defensively, but in open play defensively they're not good enough, conceding 5 against Liverpool and losing against Leicester as well. You're losing to the top two and being convincingly outplayed, whereas if you play in those clubs 5 years ago, they're not getting outplayed. So in the last 5-6 years they have massively declined from where they were to where they are now, and part of the reason is the chopping and changing on the bench with the manager, but also transfer policy and youth policy as well, I think have been mismanaged. So whoever comes in has got to say to the owner and the board, give me more control over transfers and youth policy. I think they really have to be a very strong-willed character. They've got to, get control of that situation in the short to medium term, and put things in place so that long term the direction of the club is positive. Because all I'm seeing now is a club that's going one way, and that is down. They've got to do something quick. I'm surprised they've waited this long to make a managerial change when it's clearly going horribly wrong. But it wasn't working from the outset with Marco Silva. But then Ronald Koeman, it went very wrong very, very quickly as well. And then the David Unsworth interim manager situation wasn't well handled either. I have some concerns about the board and owner and how they're handling this club. But I'm going to leave that there. He's been sacked, 18 months in charge, 18th in the table. Says it all really. Heavy defeat to Liverpool on Wednesday. Even with the defeat against Leicester, fans were chanting, Silva out. They had already lost faith in the manager. It's not a positive environment, but we'll see what happens. But for now, thank you very much for watching. Please place your thoughts below. Please like and subscribe, and I'll have some more videos for you very, very soon.